13. Councilor Pelletier and President. Town Council resolution in opposition to Rhode Island General Law 44-39, taxation. Susan Gil- Resolution proclaiming October 19th, 25 as National Friends of Libraries Week in Tiverton. Tax assessor, approval of abatement. Planning Board Administrator Officer Kate Michaud, activity report for September 2014. Town Administrator, distribution of monthly overtime report for September. Town Administrator, distribution of monthly reports for September, and ratification of fuel contract. Any items to be removed?
Mr. President, item 1A.
Other items? Okay, I want to remove CA4. Any other items? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on the rest of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Mr. Pelletier? I'm sorry, Mr. Lambert.
Those French names get to you.
I know.
Yeah. Page 8 out of 9, starting with Councilor Lambert. Really the second my viewpoint at all. Where it says trying to make, if any lapse at all is fair and transparent to the public would be unfair to Mrs. Michaud. I'd like to replace that. Using the same language, basically the same language, it would read as follows, quote, trying to make sure if there were any lapses, comma, the final process is seen as fair and transparent by the public, semicolon. Although at this point, it may seem to some as unfair to Mrs. Michaud. The other sentences are perfectly fine.
Okay. Do you have that, Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Okay, I will entertain a motion regarding CA1 as amended.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. CA4, resolution proclaiming October 19th to 25 as National Friends of Libraries Week in Tiverton. Whereas Friends of Tiverton Libraries raise money that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, much-needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. Whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to present. Whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic material, along with expert assistance in research, readers' advisory, and children's services. Whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tiverton Town Council proclaims October 19th through the 25th, 2014 as Friends of Library Week in Tiverton, Rhode Island, and it urges everyone to join the Friends of the Library on this, their 21st anniversary, and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better. By order of the Tiverton Town Council, Edward A. Roderick, Town Council President. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, public forum. Mrs. Pelletier.
Good evening. Thank you. We're still celebrating, as you know, Farming Month in Tiverton. We're still trying to nail down the list of actual farmers who get their hands dirty in the process of farming. So if you know of any, we have a list that I've gotten at Town Hall of some. If you know any other ones, please let either Nancy Mello or me know. There are quite a number of ways I guess we could help them. We can make a process of where they can form a collaborative that helps each other, and there's always strength in number. It's not competitive, it's helping each other grow. There are many help lines available at the Rhode Island Department of Farming, or DOT, and one of them, first of all, you can get these, any farmer can get these for free, these signs, and there's also a signage protocol or something where you can have DOT put up agricultural signs, and I couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't print it out larger. It's small signs that can go on the side of the road, and they might be helpful if somebody desires to have them, or Mr. Belushi, I guess, would have to apply at the DOT, DEM for those signs. They're rather neat. They have a silo on them. They're quite nice. So we should keep in mind how we can make it easy. We can invite them to leave their brochures here. And by the way, these flowers are courtesy of Mr. Manchester, John Manchester. So I think it adds a little color. There are interesting facts. Rhode Island has increased its farms in the last 7 years by about 2%. However, the revenue has dipped, so if we can make it more desirable to buy from the farmers directly, they can miss the middleman and make more profit. 25% of the farmers are women. I think that's a great thing. And all of these things can help us. And looking forward to next month, which is Indian Month, if any of you, because we are so rich in Indian artifacts in this area, if anybody has things like arrowheads or anything that they have found and are willing to lend for a display, a very local display, maybe we can use that as a secure glass case, because we certainly wouldn't want them to be stolen or anything, but I don't see much trouble in using that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mrs. Cook.
Good evening. My name's Donna Cook. I live on Hilton Street. I received a phone call today that a decision was already made on who would be voted for the Personnel Board.
Mrs. Cook, I'm going to stop you right there.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh,
I
yes,
was
I am.
discouraged from even interviewing for the position
Mrs. Cook,
tonight and would be
Mrs. Cook,
wasting
I'm
my
going to
time.
stop you right now.
3 people applied for the
Sergeant at
openings.
Arms.
So if I was to step down, would be clear that the Ed Roderick's wife would be
No,
in the
no, I-
position for that. Is that
Mrs.
the way
Cook.
we do business in this council?
Mrs. Cook,
I was told not to apply, that it would be
Mrs.
a
Cook,
waste
were
of
you
time.
here? That phone call was hearsay, and we don't know what you're speaking about. It was hearsay from somebody in the community.
And Mrs. Cook,
And-
you
All
That's
are,
right, and I'll
inappropriate.
say who it was.
Yeah, I'll be happy to
All right,
respond to you, Mrs. Cook.
It was Jay Lambert.
Yeah,
He called to say that I shouldn't apply.
That's a lie.
Because, no, it's not.
It's a lie,
You know you
Mrs.
said
Cook.
it.
You know it's a
That he
lie.
discouraged me from applying because the other people were, as he said, had better background than I, so it would be a waste of my time. And after all, there was only 2 positions and 3 people applied. And I said, well, Ed Roderick's wife applied. Are you trying to make it clear, do you want me to step down because his wife is applying?
that I will
Is that
stop
the
you.
way
Mrs.
do
Cook,
business in this
that
council?
what shows where your mentality is. I am telling you, I will not allow you to character
It's not for you
assassinate
to
me
allow or not.
or my,
It's
oh,
happening.
yes, it is. I'm going to ask the chief, since we don't have the sergeant, to ask her to leave the podium.
And Mr. President, I would like
Don't
an
touch me.
opportunity to respond very, very briefly.
So that's what you do to people. You call them and ask them not to apply or not to
Mrs. Cook, Mrs.
interview.
Cook, I have
I
no
was
other way of
asked not
saying
to
it.
interview.
You're a
It would be a
liar.
waste of time.
Mrs.
And
Cook, I
then
have no idea where you're coming
I
from,
would be
but you're
very
a liar.
glad to back you up for any other position on a committee, but not this one. So I'm not applying for another position right now. I'm applying for this one. It's just supposed to be fair and equitable. So apparently everyone's made up their mind, or you made up your mind. Not very fair. Not
Mrs.
very
Cook, I
nice.
haven't spoken to anyone but you. Stop saying that everyone has made up their mind.
So you're speaking for yourself that you made
Mrs.
up your
Cook, would you
mind.
give me an opportunity to respond? When you're finished, let me
Why
know,
would you
because I
call-
want to
If you didn't
respond.
know me, would you call this woman over here? You don't know her from Adam. Would you call her and ask
I
her
know-
not to interview?
Mrs. Cook, you're fabricating this whole story. Would you
I
say?
have your phone number on my phone.
I didn't
also
say I
have-
didn't talk to you. I called you. I told you who I was.
You know it's inappropriate, Jay.
No, I don't know it's inappropriate.
This
And
is
if you'd sit,
inappropriate.
if you would sit down, I'd respond.
Mrs. Cook,
So you're telling me to sit down and be quiet and shut up?
No,
No,
we're
that's not what
asking
we're telling
you
you.
have to relinquish the podium in order for someone to respond to your accusation. That's the only way speech works. A conversation only works if you pause for a moment to allow the other party to respond. And that's what he's trying to do.
Well, it would be nice, but I was told to step away from the podium and someone came up here to remove me.
I don't know what to tell you.
Okay,
What is there to say? This is the way the
Mrs. Cook?
council's been.
Mrs. Cook?
that is not.
Mrs. Cook?
But it is.
Mrs. Cook, you will have an opportunity when
And
it comes
stop
up
yelling at me
on
and
the
acting like
agenda.
I'm 3 years old, and
Well,
I'm
you were
tired of you
acting like a
speak-
3-year-old.
Stop talking to me like that. It's so disrespectful.
Chief Lloyd?
May I just point out, there's an interview item on the agenda, which you'll have a chance to speak to the
your mind.
council during that item when you're on the agenda. You're on the agenda, not very farther down the page is your opportunity to speak. Not at this time. That's the point. The public speaking point is not the point to make the personal thing. There already is an interview scheduled, and you'll have your time to make a statement. All the candidates, whenever people are interviewed, have a chance to make a statement. You can make your statement then, just as you'll have to listen to people respond to you at that point, too. But this isn't the point under this item of the agenda.
You're deciding that this is the point, that I'm supposed to be quiet until the interview, when I was told that it would be better that I just don't interview.
Mrs. Cook, I did not tell you that, and nor did the rest
I
of this
didn't
council.
say you did, but I was
Okay.
told by an official on this council that it would be better that I do not interview.
I think it's best that Mr.
Wait
Lambert.
a minute, Mrs. Cook, who told you that?
You.
Okay, I want to collect all of the lies for my response.
Mrs.
First of all, the important thing is, Mr. Roderick is going to recuse himself when this item
That
came up.
makes it so much better.
Which, no, it's
Which
the
I
law,
would do
and which
because
he-
that's the law.
And which he also told before you ever came up here or even put your name on it, he had said he's going to recuse not just from one, but from all three of the interviews, which is the appropriate thing
I
to do.
expect him to
So,
that's
right.
not news to me.
But he's not recusing himself at this point. So this is, again, why you should wait till it gets to the proper item on the agenda.
I think Mr. Lambert.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this will be a fair interview.
Well, I feel it will be,
Mr.
Mrs.
President,
Cook.
I'd like an opportunity to respond very, very briefly.
All right, Mr. Lambert, just briefly.
Very, very briefly, since I know Mrs. Cook, and I was reading the agenda today, I appreciated the fact that we have 2 openings, 2 vacancies, and we have 3 applicants. I have repeatedly said in the past that it's always extremely difficult when we have 3 qualified applicants, or more applicants than we have vacancies. I advised Mrs. Cook, I called Mrs. Cook and indicated to her that we had 3 applicants, that I had read the agenda. We had only 2 openings. I asked Mrs. Cook if she had considered any other position that she might want to consider. And I've done that in the past. We could have 4 applicants, we could have 5 applicants. Never did I tell Mrs. Cook that we had decided what the outcome was. I hadn't made any decision as to what the outcome was. And never did I indicate to Mrs. Cook that she should not interview, and never did I indicate to Mrs. Cook that she would not be selected. I simply called as a matter of courtesy to point out that the agenda could present us with an uncomfortable situation, which I've noted in the past, and that is, more applicants than there are vacancies, and I would be at least ask you whether or not you had any other positions you'd want to consider. Period.
Okay, Mrs. Cook, you will have your opportunity.
I need to respond to that?
No, Mrs. Cook, you will have your opportunity at the
May I
appropriate time.
respond?
No.
Mrs. Cook, I'll be running that part of the agenda, and I will let you respond to that when the agenda item comes up.
Okay. Secana River Outfitters, 0 Main Street, corner of Main and Haskins Road, Plat 117, Lot 224. Request approval of indoor shooting range, subject to meeting all legal requirements, continued from September 29th special hearing. We have a request from Mr. LeBeau for a continuance to December 8th for further review by the planning board. We don't need to make a motion on that. Yes. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue this to the December 8th meeting.
So moved.
Yes.
Council Ryder, I just wanted it noted for the record that I did receive a letter from a James McCarthy on Haskins Ave, but this will be put into the file for whenever the continuation is set for.
Okay.
So you did not receive this, but I'm just making you aware that I did receive it today. Okay?
Can you distribute that in advance, or?
It will be distributed with the packet that goes out when we're continuing this to, what, November?
December 8th.
December 8th, so it'll be in that packet. I just wanted you to be aware of it in case someone approached you that they had sent it. Unless council wants it.
Yeah, I'd like to, I'd just like to see
I'd like
it.
to see
Yeah,
it.
just for,
Sure, I'll
just
send it
for,
ahead of time,
yeah,
sure.
just for information. Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue the hearing on Secana River Outfitters to December 8th. All those in favor? Motion carries.
May I just, I mean, the normal procedure would not be, this would not be re-advertised.
Well, it's
Because you
continuous.
continue to a date certain. I just want to make clear that that's, you didn't, that it will not be advertised. People from the community need to know that December 8th date or call the clerk's office, but we would not be re-advertising it. Thank you.
Okay, appointments and resignations. Resignations, Board of Canvassers. Resignations of Charles M. Moran Jr., alternate board member. Conservation Commission, Joseph Grimard. Tiverton Library Board of Trustees, resignation of James R. Barrett. I would like to thank them all for their service to our boards and commissions, and ask that the town clerk send them a letter thanking them for their service. Okay, appointments at this point, I will recuse myself and turn the meeting over to Mrs. Misty Medeiros.
Appointments Personnel Board to expire terms to October 15, 2015 and October 15, 2016. Donna Cook, 192 Hilton Street. At this point, could Donna come up, tell us a little bit about herself and why she would like this appointment? Donna, before we start, I'd like to keep this as civil as we possibly can, all right? It doesn't help anybody to name call, and so we'll talk about it, but try to be respectful, please.
I saw that there was opening for a personnel board, and I decided that I would like to be a part of the personnel board. I looked up what the duties and responsibilities were in the charter, and I felt that I could fulfill that without a problem. I understand that it does not meet all the time, and when needed, I would be able to fulfill that obligation. I've been in many leadership roles in my life, and I just think a reasonable person can do a job to pick the right person. All you have to do is read their credentials and have a pretty good idea if they could fulfill the position in the town. And I think any reasonable person could do that.
Could you tell us a little bit about your work experience?
Okay, I was a LPN for 21 years on the 11 to 7 shift, and got tired of that, and I decided to be a flight attendant, so I did that for 10 years. And then I got tired of that, and I just retired. And I've had leadership roles. I've been president of my base in Boston, 150 flight attendants for 4 years. Was the membership chair for 4 years. Took part in the MEC meetings, going to DC for the board meetings, for doing anything that had to do with managerial. I was their equal when it came to the managers in the company. I was their equal on the union side. So I took care of many problems, and actually changed quite a few things that had to deal with how the company operated. So I did accomplish quite a bit. I was very proud of what I accomplished in that role, and I liked the nursing field, but I just got tired of working 11 to 7 and every other weekend and all the holidays and
Is there anything else you'd like to add before?
I was hoping that this would be a fair dealing, and the voting would be fair. Everything can't be fair as far as applicants, I understand that, but I was hoping that it would be fair for voting. And as I was told, that to keep away from me being, with the voting, with the embarrassment of me being turned down or not voted for, that maybe it might be better that I just not interview. So I just was very disappointed that I was called like that.
The only concern that I have is you are running for the Budget Committee. So if, no, I'm just going to ask Andy this. If elected, can she serve on the Personnel Board?
No, you can't be on
No.
both.
Right,
I
so
already
there would
know
be a
that.
vacancy after the election if you were appointed.
Right, but I don't have a crystal ball.
Right, and I
you
don't
know.
either. It was just something that I had concerns
Right.
about. Janice EU's 36 Holly Lane. Hi Janice, would you like to
Hi.
tell us a little bit about your work experience and why you would like this appointment?
I'm retired from the Navy. I did 24 years, hospital corpsman, senior chief. I retired in Newport. I was a senior enlisted leader, supervising over 100 corpsmen. And then when I retired, I went into human resources. So I've been in human resources now for 11 years in civil service in Newport. I have a bachelor's degree in management, certificate in human resources, and a MBA with healthcare management. Human resources is kind of my life. I enjoy the hiring process, and getting the right person for the right job. And I've been here in Tiverton since 1999.
Any questions from the council?
Apologies for being late.
Oh, that's okay.
Did you review the duties of Personnel Board in the charter, so that
Yes,
you're
I did.
aware?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Hughes.
Thank you.
Nancy Rodricks, 19 Sparrow Drive. Welcome, Nancy. Could you please tell us about yourself, your work experience, and why you would like this appointment?
I come from a large family, and we were always taught to give back to your community and to others. And I've been 30 years in the human resource field. I have my professional resource certification from the Society for Human Resource Management. Currently, I am the Human Resource Officer for C-Corp, which is a military defense contractor, we have over 320 employees, and we're always recruiting. I have a lot of background in recruiting for the right position, but also being fair and equitable, that we get the right person for the right job. And being a military defense contractor, we also have to abide by the affirmative action rules set forth by the OFCCP out of the Department of Labor. I've looked at the requirements in the charter. I know that I fulfill all those requirements, and with the meetings as needed, it would not be a problem for me.
I just have a quick question.
Go ahead.
I know in the conversation I had with Mr. Roderick, you and he went to Florida with your grandchildren, and he mentioned purchasing a home in Florida. Are you moving to Florida?
No, we are not moving.
Oh.
We're going to be doing 6 and 6, but he's retiring next year, but I married an older man and I can't retire yet. So he will be in Florida and I will be up here for a part of the year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mrs. Roderick.
Mrs. Vice President?
Yes.
I always do in this type of situation, pointing out that we have more qualified applicants than we have vacancies. I would urge, despite the fact we will not have the vote for another 2 weeks, that anyone unsuccessful, please don't take it personal, and I hope you will consider looking to another board or commission. We need volunteers in this town. Thank you.
Would any other counselor have anything to say or entertain a motion?
No, we typically don't.
Sometimes, not all the time. Not all the time.
Very rarely.
Thank you,
Welcome
Mr.
back.
Maris. Thank you. Harbor and Coastal Water Management Commission, one-year term expiring 7/15/2015. Stephen W. Anderson, 89 Songbird Lane. Mr. Anderson.
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome. If you'll tell us a little bit about yourself.
As soon as I change glasses. Okay, my current occupation is retired. I served 11 years in the United States Navy in the submarine service. As a result of the Navy and a result of a lifetime recreational fisherman and sailboat owner, I have knowledge of marine regulations for boats, understanding tidal currents and their change effects on mooring and boat traffic, and a knowledge of coastal navigation. After the Navy, I worked in the commercial food industry, Wonder Bread, Ragu Foods, Lenders, as the plant engineer, and later as a facilities manager for 5 plants. I believe those experiences have mechanical and interpersonal skills that would help me on this commission. Personal, my life is flexible, and I would make meeting attendance and commission matters a priority. Throughout my life, I've always volunteered to serve my community. I have served as an elected official on the Board of Assessment Appeals, and this was in, obviously, the town that we moved from. And been appointed to the State Selective Service Board. I'm a member of the American Legion, where I had served as a post commander, and as a member of the Submarine Veterans of America. I have worked with the Boy Scouts, starting as a packmaster, and most recently as an Eagle Scout Review Board member. I seek the appointment to the commission. We moved from rural Connecticut to Tiverton to be closer to the ocean and all that it offers. I have a desire and the time to serve my community, and I hope you will find interest in boating and fishing, as well as my life's experience, to be of service to the commission.
Thank you. Anything from the council? Okay. I don't know if it's the council's wish, since there's only one applicant, to,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you, Mr. Anderson.
We've advertised for a number of,
We've advertised, we've had it on the website, we've been pursuing this, the second advertisement on these, and there are vacancies on this one and the next one. We actually had another resignation on the Harbor Commission past my desk today, so.
Well, Mr. President, if you would permit votes at this time?
I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Stephen W. Anderson to the Harbor and Coastal Water Management Commission with a one-year term expiring July 15th, 2015.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Congratulations, Mr. Anderson. Welcome.
Thank you.
Recreation Committee, 3-year term expiring 4/15/2017. Tom G. Pierce Jr., 49 Antelope Way. Is Mr. Pierce here? Ah, there he is. Same thing, tell us a bit about yourself. See, we have the luxury of this in front of us. The people out there don't.
I've been a resident here in town for 12 years now. My wife and I moved here in 2002. I have 3 small children. I work for the state of Rhode Island at Rhode Island Higher Education Assistance Authority. I've been there for 7 years now. I'm a director of program administration there. And really just had a desire to get involved in things that go on here in the town, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to maybe get my foot in the door, so to speak. Seemed like a good fit, being a father of 3, joining the Recreation Commission.
Great. Any questions from the council? Yeah,
How many openings are
I
there?
was just going to ask, Madam Clerk.
There is one opening on there. Ms. Ebbett has not renewed her appointment on June 30th. So they've actually been without a member.
Mr. Pierce, have you been to any of the Recreation Committee meetings, are you?
I have not. I just stumbled across the vacancy. I did meet with one of the members, Susan Gill, and I had coffee one day, and she kind of filled me in a little bit on how the commission functions, the frequency of the meetings and things like that.
Okay. If there's nothing from the council, then I will entertain a motion.
I move.
Go
ahead.
Good.
Good,
Mr.
Pelletier.
Mr. Pelletier?
Someone?
I move that we appoint Tom G. Pierce Jr. to a 3-year term of the Recreation Commission expiring 4/15/17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thanks very
Welcome.
much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Historical Cemetery Committee, 3-year term expiring 4/15/2017. Linda Albanaz, 364 King Road. Hi, Linda. I know it's warm in here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, same thing. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm currently working as a security officer in Attleboro, Massachusetts. But I've been doing family history for about 40 years now. And I just happened to come in doing some genealogy in the town clerk's office and asking about cemeteries and how we can keep them clean and everything. I was introduced to Isabel Hart, and she invited me to some meetings about 8 months ago, and I've been coming ever since, and I'm addicted. And I would like very much to help with this committee, because it's what I believe in. It should be remembered.
Great. Okay. Anything from the council? Okay, Madam Clerk, any other openings?
Yes, because unfortunately, Ms. Hart cannot be a voting member.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, if the council is amenable, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we appoint Linda Albanez to the Historical Cemetery Committee for a 3-year term expiring April 15th, 2017.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations and welcome.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And a meeting in the air.
Okay.
That's right, there's a meeting in progress.
We have no, yeah, it's going to our first meeting officially. Okay, unfinished business, nothing. Financial business, nothing. New business, North Tiverton Volunteer Fire Department. Approval to move the North Tiverton Veterans Fire Department Monument and Bell from its present location of 85 Main Road to Pecasset Cemetery. Gentlemen.
Good evening, thank you for hearing us. My name is Robert Shadoma, I live at 19 Baby Avenue, Tiverton, Rhode Island, and I'm the president of the North Tiverton Volunteer Fire Department.
Joe Perry, 133 East Bourne Avenue, Secretary of the North Tiverton Volunteer Fire Department.
Thank you. What we're here for tonight is we would like permission to move the monument and the bell that right now is located in front of the Tiverton Fire Department, 85 Main Road, Tiverton, to the cemetery, right around the community flagpole that's on the north side of the cemetery on Main Road. We have met with the Cemetery Commission. We do have a letter where they have granted us permission to move this stone and a bell, but we just want to get permission from the council also before we do anything, since it is on town property.
The reason for the request was in case the town ever sells the property, we would like the stone to be in the proper place where it originally belongs. It was at the Pecasset School years ago when they put the new addition on. We moved it there, and now we'd like to put it at the cemetery. We would also inquire all costs to move and maintain the damage that we do to the property at 85 Main Road, if there's any.
We have, in the past years, paid for and supplied all the flags that are on that flagpole. Right now, there is a small stone there that was purchased by the North Tiverton Volunteer Fire Department back in the middle 70s, recognizing all the firefighters in the town of Tiverton. But this one here basically is for the North Tiverton Volunteer Fire Department firefighters. And also on the back of the stone, we inscribed the names of 2 firefighters that were volunteers that lost their life in the line of duty. And we'd like to continue this, but like I said, we'd like to have the stone put in a permanent place.
Okay. I just have a question. The bell cradle, is that going to be the same cradle that you're going to move, or are you going to do something different?
We may be able to just remove it off of the base that's there, but if need be, we would move the base and fix that all back up to, respectable.
Again, we would pay for all costs on doing this.
Okay. Anything from the council?
I'm sorry.
I'm done.
I did have one question. Would you prefer to keep it where it is at 85 Main Road? I mean, what is your preference? I don't want anybody to get the impression we're kicking you off the property, or that the fire department is kicking you off the property.
What happened was, about 8 years ago or so, we turned the building over to the town of Tiverton. That building was owned and built by the North Tiverton Volunteer Fire Department. Roughly 8 years ago, 9 years ago, somewhere around that time, we met with the town administrator at the time, the Fire Chief Lloyd, and some of us that are on the board of the North Tiverton Volunteer Fire Department, and we made an agreement where we surrendered the building over to the town of Tiverton. We are a very small organization now. We're no longer involved in firefighting and stuff like that. We do have some funds available, and what we'd like to do is, while we have the funds available, move this. Because 20 years down the road from now, 30 years down the road from now, we don't know what's gonna happen with that building. The town could turn around and sell the building. Whoever purchases the building can do whatever they want with that stone. They could destroy it, they could do whatever they want to it. So right now, while we have the funds and we have the means to do it, we'd like to get that stone and a bell, the monument, and move it to a final resting place where it'll be in a cemetery for generations to come.
Right.
Anything else from the council?
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Chief?
no problem with this. The stone, the monument is for all Tiverton firefighters. Their ownership is not in question on it at all. I was just kind of surprised by the speed with which this came about, that it was going to be moved, but where it is, I would just say if it's going to Pecasset, that's fine. I don't want to see it get destroyed. I don't want to see something happen to it, because it is valuable, and I think, and as I've given you in my letter, I do believe that a lot of the history of this community for its firefighting has been lost through just people not realizing the value of it. So I'd like to continue, make sure the stone is still there, still taken care of. I don't have a problem staying where it is, but if they wish to move it, that's absolutely fine with me.
We did talk to Ron Helga, and he said he would take extra care in moving it, and, made sure no damage would come of the stone.
Okay, and the
We'd
upkeep?
like to get this done before winter sets, if all possible. If not, by the spring, but we'd like to get it done now while I say, well, the weather's still good and we have the funds to do it.
Okay. The upkeep, who will take care of, the maintenance around the stone?
It'd be part of the contract, probably.
Probably be part of the cemetery commission would take care of it. I mean, I don't think there's anything different that's being done now, where it is now, so.
Yeah, there's already a stone there for the firefighters.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a smaller
So,
stone.
it's a small stone,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and this stone was dedicated back in June 13th, 1954. So, I mean, it's been around, like I said, like you said at the beginning with the Catholic school, because that's where we have the parades and stuff for the firefighters.
Yeah.
That was like the central gathering area, so that's why it was placed there. But then when they put the addition on, it was going to be in a way, so we moved it from there to where it is now. Like, so we're just looking to move it to its, like, final resting place, basically.
And the council members, Bob, do have, I took photos of it today, so they all do have photos of the actual monument, its placement.
The only question I have, guys, is where is it going to be placed in Pecasset? Is it going to be in a prominent location that
It's going to
we
be,
can...
I believe, north of the one that is there now, the firefighter one that is there now. I believe Ron said he was going to put it just north of that one, so they'd offset.
The stone might
So
be
it's
one place,
fairly
there's a smaller
visible.
stone and a bell on the other place. We'd like to get permission before we, move forward. We like to take this in steps.
Right. And that's where the flagpole is, so it's just on
Right,
this
right.
side of the crest coming
Right,
down the hill.
Right.
Yep, okay. Anything else from the council? Okay, then, I don't know if we need a motion, but I will entertain a motion to authorize the volunteer fire department to move the memorial stone to Pecasset Cemetery.
I would happily move that we grant permission or grant permission to move the monument and bell for the North Tiverton Volunteer Fire Department from its present location at the North Tiverton Fire Station to Pecasset Cemetery.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor? Motion. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Take care,
guys.
Stone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Town clerk, charter complaints.
As you know, there was a complaint filed, I tried to put kind of the history so you'd be able to follow it. There was a complaint filed in July by Mr. Odell against the council regarding the appointment and expenditures of a town planner. Since it was against the majority of the council, or the council in whole at that time, it was forwarded to the municipal court clerk, municipal court judge, as I'm required to do by charter. So for those that attended, the municipal court judge, Mr. Donnelly, gave a decision on that. And a charter complaint has been filed against the municipal court judge, James Donnelly, relative to hearing that complaint against the council. So, because this complaint is against the judge, I am presenting it to the town council for what the town council's wishes are, because that's what the charter directs me to do.
I just have a question. The charter is explicit in when complaints are brought against the council that it goes to the municipal court judge. Am I correct? Okay. All right, so then
That's section 1210, it says a charter.
right. And all previous municipal court judges have been appointed by councils.
Yes.
Okay, so in essence, this complaint would say that the charter is invalid regarding hearing complaints against the council.
I'm just submitting it as I received it, sir.
I'm just stating my opinion.
Okay, I thought you were
Where,
asking me.
if anywhere, is this?
1210.
1210,
Yes,
thank you.
1210.
Are you asking us, Nancy, on whether we want to hear this complaint?
I am presenting it to you as I am supposed to do
Okay.
in the charter.
And it is on here tonight for discussion, as we talked about at the auditorium the last time. It's on here for discussion and possible scheduling, okay? Not to make a decision on it tonight. Now, as in the past, when a complaint has been made against an official acting in their official capacity, as opposed to a complaint for acting in a private capacity, but an official capacity, which clearly is the case here with Judge Donnelly. He was directed explicitly by the charter, he heard it. The hearing here, right in this room, rendered a written decision. I will be representing him when it goes forward. And the council would have independent counsel, legal counsel. I have checked with Attorney Matt Oliverio, who was also here for the last situation when there was a complaint against the clerk. So he's familiar with the matter, familiar with the charter. He is willing and interested to do it. He is available next Monday night, which is the 20th, October 20th, if you wanted to hear it at that time.
So we'd have to pay him to represent us?
That is correct, yes.
Let me just understand this a little better. The initial complaint was against the majority of the council. I was one of those people. The second complaint against Judge Donnelly is for us in the charter to hear, and it's whether or not he acted improperly in a hearing where I was the subject.
That is correct.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
And I know, that was just rhetorical. So what I'm wondering is there any alternative to us hearing a case, a complaint like this, or, because, I mean, we're going to pay special counsel $100 an hour, and where, I mean, even in the best case scenario, it's not I don't think it's appropriate for us to decide whether or not he did something to benefit us. I mean,
There'll probably be a resulting another charter complaint because we heard this.
Well, there is the third charter complaint in front of you, which is another complaint against you, the council, for the appointment of the building official, which, under the charter, is being referred to the municipal court judge. Now, he may or may not decide to recuse himself, but the appropriate procedure, the charter is pretty frank about it. Now, obviously, I'm trying to be careful because I have feelings about, a view of it as well, and that's why I would like to provide you with independent counsel and not bias you with my views. I think, I will say that, and I don't think I'm giving anything away here, assuming that you hold a hearing with Mr. Oliverio to advise you, one of the first things that I'm going to argue is that you should dismiss it, that you shouldn't even be hearing it, there are no merits to it, that you should be dismissing it on a variety of legal grounds. Obviously, that's something I'd argue, but not tonight. So I guess that answers your question, will you have other alternatives? and you will have alternatives to consider those requests to dismiss it, or you can go forward and hear it. I think the charter, you know, I don't want to argue it now, so I'll just say the charter speaks for itself.
Unlike my learned compatriot or cohort here to my right, who's a Philadelphia lawyer, I'm not. And I just find it, bizarre is a good word, when someone uses the charter to their benefit, but when it doesn't work the way they want it to, they want to file a charter complaint. The charter is clear that it goes to, there's no discussion, Mr. Odell.
Don't call me bizarre. First of all, my second complaint was made before the judgment. This is ridiculous. You are not going to disrespect me.
We are not disrespecting you, it's just...
Calling me bizarre is disrespectful.
We didn't call you bizarre. We called the situation bizarre.
This is an orderly meeting. Your voice is down, or people will be objecting.
As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted. The charter is explicit as to how these things go. And I find it funny, I won't use the word bizarre.
I will.
That if...
You know, Mr. Odell.
No more. One more outburst, you can leave. There is
I'll
no
save
name
you in
called.
trouble, I'm leaving now.
Okay, it's your choice, sir. It's your choice.
that the charter is explicit in how these matters should be handled, and then when they don't like the results or don't want it that way, so we're going to go against the charter. So I'm at a loss at how do you handle this? So do we not send anything to the municipal judge as stated in our charter? Because every council votes to appoint them. So anything done with the council, if you want to use that argument, would have that same issue.
Mr. President, can I give my thoughts on it?
Absolutely.
I have given it some thought. If I was looking at this as a Philadelphia lawyer, I would really have two problems. The first one is that the complaint is very, very specific that was filed against Judge Donnelly. It says, since the majority of the town council was cited in the charter violation, I believe it is an, quote, interested party to the fact that the judge's income, it's poorly written, but he's clearly identifying Judge Donnelly as a quote, unquote, and he puts the quotation marks, interested party. Now, if you look at the section 805B, it indicates whenever a municipal court judge is a party, it doesn't say interested party. And if you think about it, a party has a definition. A party is a plaintiff, it's a defendant, it's a petitioner, or it's a respondent. You can't have an interested party. By definition, the party is interested. Even if you've been dragged kicking and screaming into the litigation, you're now a participant. Judge Donnelly is not a quote-unquote interested party in this litigation, but that's going to be the very first legal issue to be decided. The other issue that I have with this is that typically, if you're looking at this from an ultra-judicial viewpoint, I guess, is that I note that the charter complaint was filed on July 28th. The hearing was held on August 25th, but with no indication as to the reason for the delay. The complaint against Judge Donnelly was filed September 24th, raising the issue of recusal. Unless there's an explanation that this information just came to Mr. Odell's attention, he has to come up with some justification for allowing something substantive to happen in the case before making his recusal motion. In this case, a hearing was actually held. Everything was done, all of the evidence was presented, and then a month later, the issue of recusal is raised. So I have those two problems. But I think looking at the charter, it's clear that this was meant to allow an average taxpayer who may be unsophisticated in some of these procedural technicalities to file a complaint. And I don't think it would look appropriate to dismiss it on those type of technicalities. I have a real problem with rewording the charter and referring to Judge Donnelly as an interested party. I don't know how a judge is going to get past that issue. But I think that what the charter anticipates and contemplates is allowing a process like this to proceed despite the warts on it that it may have. This is an opportunity for an average citizen to have his say, right or wrong, even if he's made some mistakes along the way. That's how I resolve the conflict.
Michael, my question is more of practical considerations. Is this something we hear as the full membership of the council, or is it, I mean, we're parties to the, it's not a lawsuit, but
So do
there are
four
four
of us
of us
recuse
that are
ourselves
parties
from-
to this.
No. I mean, I would argue that you would all hear it, and the charter says you are the charter review board in this instance. So, and you can't hear it, if you only have 3 of you, then you don't have a quorum. So, I would say that you all hear it. As you're saying, it may not be exactly logical, but it's what's written, because it's a local process.
Andy, just because it shows up here and I don't know the answer on the charter complaint dated September 24th, what role, if any, does the judge of probate have in this?
The judge of probate has no role in the charter complaint process. The judge of probate is the designated replacement for the municipal court judge if the municipal court judge is a party or has a conflict in it.
Okay.
Which I would take, for example, there are towns where if the municipal court judge were married to one of the council members, then it would be inappropriate for the municipal court judge to do it. If there was some conflict like that, that's the conflict of interest that provides for the probate court judge to sit in his place. We did have situation, we've had a couple of ones where we brought violations. There was violations for some zoning in a trailer park, and the municipal court judge actually represented that particular defendant in the municipal court. So it went to the probate court judge to hear it. That's what I believe is the role of the probate court judge.
Okay.
It happens that the probate court judge is elected and the municipal court judge is appointed. But the municipal court judge has, as far as I know, has always been appointed as long as these sections have been in the charter providing him here. And for what it's worth, the charter provides the municipal court judge to be appointed in the off years, not in election years, which further depoliticizes it.
So when is Matthew available?
Next Monday.
Next Monday.
Yeah, he's available next Monday was being held
The
as a
20th?
possible meeting for the comp plan, which I gather is not happening. I did ask him, I asked him about a couple of nights. Monday's the only night he's available next week. I did not ask him about the regular meeting on the 27th, because it seemed like we have a very busy agenda anyway, and didn't think you'd want to hear this on a regular meeting. But if you do, and of course, if you don't want to hear it, if you don't want special counsel, you don't have to have it. You could just continue it to the 27th and do it without him. It's up to you. I just was doing the homework.
And just for giggles, how many hours do you think Mr. Oliveira would have to expend in order to do this?
Yeah, but it's not.
I'm just trying to put an order of magnitude dollar amount here, just to kind of.
Okay. Nancy's saying 4 to 6. I was going to think about 5, so that's about, I don't think there's a lot. One of the reasons is he's already done this before, so he knows the charter, he knows the basic charter review process. He's not going to have to relearn that. The complaint is fairly short. They'll read the decision, the previous one. I don't think it's a lot. I'm not expecting a long hearing to last several hours. So, yeah, I would say 4 to 6 hours.
Okay, it's, what is the wish of the council? Would you?
I just have
prefer-
one other question. What would he be charging the town for this?
Mr. Oliverio is currently charging the town, I believe, $275 an hour, $275 an hour, because he is a special counsel for the lawsuit which Mr. Odell and 16 other people are already bringing against the town.
Oh, but he could be an interested party.
Yes.
Well,
If,
well, he's only, but he's the attorney.
I know,
he's not-
I know. It's up to the council if they want to meet on Monday, the 20th.
That's fine with me, I'm free.
Okay, Monday the 20th.
I can do it.
Jim?
I'm not gonna, I'm actually won't be in town over the weekend.
John?
I'm checking. Yeah, I'm good. For the
Jay?
20th.
I'm good.
I make myself good for this.
You available?
What time would it start? Around
7.
7?
I assume 7. but
7
we
would
can
be,
adjust
yeah,
it.
I can't do it earlier than 7.
No.
That's 7.
Right.
I'm working, that's fine.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion that we will have a special meeting on the 20th with one agenda item to,
Send notification to Mr. Odell
yep,
and to Mr. Don.
yep.
Mr. President, before you discuss and vote on that motion, may I suggest that you not limit it to this one item, although we don't plan to put anything else. You have only one other meeting of the year.
Well, we can add items
It's
to the
obviously
agenda.
only going to be with your approval, but I wouldn't want a motion of the whole council saying no other items on the agenda in case
In case
something
something
did
comes
come
up.
up. Obviously, it would need your approval anyway to add, just in case.
Okay, so I will rescind that portion of that being the only item on the agenda. 7 o'clock.
Do you need a motion for that, Andy? Do you need a motion? You don't need a motion, do you?
Yes, we do need a special meeting.
I move that we schedule a meeting for October 20th, special meeting, not limited to hearing
All you have to say is just for this.
for the
item.
item of town
Charter.
council hearing a possible hiring of special counsel, a charter violation relative, blah, blah, blah. You got
You
it.
said impossible hiring?
No,
No,
it's,
no.
that's, I'm reading a complaint filed on September 24th by James Odell against Judge James A. Donnelly Jr. relative to hearing the charter complaint against the council on the hiring of a town planner,
Second.
Any discussion?
and we'll hire Matt Oliverio for his services.
I'm going to abstain since I'm not gonna be there. I don't see a vote for me is gonna.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
The second.
Okay, all those in favor? Abstaining?
Abstaining.
So we have a meeting scheduled for the 20th. Okay.
You should just be made aware that this third complaint has been filed with the municipal court, which is for all, against all council members with the exception of Councilor Aruda,
Because I wasn't at the meeting when.
because he wasn't at the meeting when the building official was appointed. So there is no date set for that, but I'll let the council know when the, I'm sure the municipal court judge is probably going to want to get through this step before the second
So this
step.
was submitted October 2nd, or?
Yeah, filed October 2nd.
Yes, but in that case,
And you filed in the
when
municipal-
you have a complaint that you file into municipal court, the charter simply states that it has to be filed with the municipal court within 10 days, and
Which
then
it
it is
has
up to
been.
the municipal court judge to set the hearing. So it has been filed
Right.
properly.
So he will set a hearing at his leisure.
I just have to wait till he
Okay.
responds.
Okay. Town Administrator, approval of 3-year extension of Waste Zero contract to 2017.
Mr.
President, this is an extension of all of the existing terms and conditions of our contract with Waste Zero, except as noted in the council's packet. There has been a slight change in the rate of compensation, but that is a term of the underlying contract that has just come into fruition with the passage of time. Waste Zero is the vendor for the town's pay-as-you-throw bags, and they are our partner in implementing the program. If there are specific questions, I'd refer them to Director Bellucci, but at this point, this is a fairly straightforward extension of a relationship that is working.
Okay, Mr. Bellucci?
I just have one note. The existing contract expired August 1st of this year, 2014. We have continued to, obviously, pass out bags and continue the program. So I'd ask if you know, under the extension, under the first page, the extension agreement, the date, if you could put August 2nd, and then it would run 3 years from August 2nd, so it'll be continuous, because we have been paying them anyhow for the services. And everything's going fine. Complaints are down to nil to 1 a month, and it seems to be going well and on all avenues, from the funds that we're collecting to the revenues that are being set aside in the reserved account, the cleanliness of the town, the cleanliness of the landfill as far as DEM is concerned, and all in all, I think it's been a win-win-win for everybody right across the board. So I really support Waste Zero. They've done an excellent job, and other than getting off the ground that first month, for the last 3 years, it's been pretty steady.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to amend the agreement to be entered in as of the second day of August 2014 and continuing through 2017.
So moved.
Second.
I'd have a quick
Any
note.
discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say that we should keep an eye on this in future years, that the CPI adjustment schedule is a little, it's one-sided. It benefits the contractor, Waste Zero, when there is no realized benefit to the town. And we should consider that in future contract negotiations, because we're going to get to a threshold where we're going to be paying an increasing share of what we collect, and we're not going to be collecting any more per bag necessarily, unless we raise the price of bags. So it's just something to keep in mind. They're getting a raise, and it's coming out of the bottom line. That's all.
Anything else from council? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. The town administrator, ratification withdrawal of DEM grant application for storm water compliance.
Once again, I'll need some help from DPW, but just to frame the issue, in the most general terms, I've made it very clear to every single member of the administrative staff that when an opportunity arises to win a grant within their area of operation, they should make every attempt to do so. Earlier this year, DEM advertised a grant program that is part of the Bay Restoration Grant Fund that was approved by the voters of the state at referenda some years ago. So this money is coming available to the municipalities. In the first round of grant funding, Steve and I and Kate Bichot and others met in my office to discuss what our strategy would be to position ourselves to win the grant. And at the time, we did not have some of the critical components of a successful grant application. Namely, the grant application really wanted shovel-ready projects where all the engineering was in place, and we had already done all the necessary environmental testing and had a strong case to make. At the time, my aspiration was to try to put storm drains in the ground, preferably in the Robert Gray neighborhood, at the same time that we were contemplating, or the wastewater district was contemplating, having the ground open for sewer. Not that we'd save a whole lot, because those pipes obviously cannot go in the same trench, but we would actually have the same machine, the same road would be dug up, and we would only dig up the road once. The engineering study that was done, probably, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, about 10 years ago by Beta Engineering, is no longer a valid engineering study upon which to base that work, because stormwater standards have been updated considerably since that time. So in order to come into full compliance, we'll have to restart the clock and do some additional engineering work. The other thing that arose was we have steps to take before we can lay pipe. We have to very carefully document all the areas where we are out of compliance with environmental standards, with hard science. The good news is, as we did our analysis of our internal capabilities to win the grant itself was, the deadline was extended over and over because there were not any successful projects being submitted to the DEM. So our sense of urgency actually increased at this point. If nobody's applying with a strong application, then we should at least apply and see how well we will do. So at this point, Mr. Bellucci interacted with ESS, the engineering firm, one of the principals of whom is a long-term regulator, former regulator from the DEM. And he has, done a fairly nice workup for a grant application that would put us in a position to file the grant in a timely fashion. And the contents of that grant I'll ask Mr. Bellucci to speak to in detail. What I want to get to is this. By the time we saw it in its final form, and the deadline for the grant application, we had no additional town council meetings. So, in the interest of keeping the application alive, we applied on time, and it will be up to the council whether or not to go forward with the terms of the grant if we're successful. But at this point in the juncture, we can at least say, if we need to withdraw it, we need to withdraw it right away, and be timely and be professional with our colleagues at DEM. If the intent is for it to go forward, it would go forward, and at the appropriate time, if we were successful, we would not be able to do anything unless we follow the process. So we have to go to the Budget Committee, to the Council, and to FDR in order to come up with any matches that would be required by the program. But to the extent that any match would be required, I'll let Steve speak to the merits of it, because what we're trying to do, to be perfectly blunt about it, is get some really expensive equipment that we already need to replace at a much lower price to our taxpayers. And with that, I'll leave it to Steve.
Okay, really, this is all generated from the Is this working?
Not really.
Really, there. Maybe that one? Okay. This is all generated from the TMDL, which really is an acronym that doesn't describe what's happening. There's a couple of outfalls in the Summerfield Lane area and Robert Gray area. They're contributing to fecal coliform pollution of Mount Hope Bay. By tests performed by EPA and DEM, these point discharges have been graphed, and there's really no disputing them. So we got this TMDL cited to us from DEM in October 7th of 2010. Since then, some of the requirements DEM is that we notify the public information, public education. We went ahead and designed and put together a pamphlet the first year out of some funding, town funding, distributed to all the areas and all the residents in the impacted area, and kind of outreach and kind of met the public goals that we had to achieve through DEM and as far as notification, education. There's always been an issue now, where do we get money? And where do we get money to continue our search for grants? Where do we get money to establish baseline data so we can continue to search for grants or money somewhere else? So the second year, we secured funds through the town process, and we went into investigating our stormwater drainage systems and testing for illicit discharges and the flows, and we've been mapping that successfully. And one of the requirements of DEM outside of this impacted area is there's also TMDLs in Stafford Pond and Sucker Brook. So part of this whole process is we have to keep the roads clean, we have to keep the drainage structures clean, we have to keep all of the stormwater systems that contribute to these TMDL areas cleaned and maintained. That ties into the condition of our current catch basin cleaner and vacuum truck. It's a 2002, that puts it at 15 years old. We put extensive money into it. It's a piecemeal piece of machine now, and the outfit that used to fix it doesn't exist anymore. It's sandblasted itself internally to death. We've replaced armored plating to absorb the sandblasting several times, and there's really nothing left to weld to. We can't even armor plate it any longer. So this is going to be a concern. This is a $250,000 concern that we're going to be looking at, because first, we have to clean our basins every single year, and we have to sweep all our streets. It's a DEM compliance regulation for our stormwater license. So putting this together and discussing this with our with ESS, our environmental consultant, we kind of come up with a strategy where we felt that part of the program to maintain the TMDL areas in their current condition, so we can go in and investigate pipes, get machines and cameras up the pipes to see if anybody's connecting, and see if we have broken pipes and underground sewerage is getting into them. So we have a lot of work to do. So it was a strategy where this is a 50-50 grant by DEM, and it could possibly be a 75-25 DEM grant. The total cost that we're asking for is $310,000. If it's a 50-50 grant, it puts at about $155 each, and I think we have about an $8,400 match off of that $155. If it reduces to a 75-25 grant, the burden to the town would be about $78,000. But we're going to have to look at one way or another, either privatizing, hiring out, or doing it ourselves. If we do it ourselves, then this machine's just not making it anymore. It's 15 years old, so. That's the basis of the $310,000 is the $250. The other part would be mapping the existing drainage structures, bringing them up to date from the 10-year-old mapping that we did, and also preparing a stormwater feasibility study, which would have the data and backup that we're going to need to pursue future grants or future ways of funding the stormwater issues and pollution issues that we have. So that's the basis of this grant. As the administrator said, he was on vacation, and boy, we had like one day to put this together, and we just got it in under the guidelines. It's up to you whether you want to continue to pursue it. We can write them tomorrow, but it's been confirmed that DEM has our application, and it was submitted under the deadline. So it's an active grant application right now. So that's why we're here.
I just have a question. Do I recall correctly that, didn't we apply 2 or 3 years ago for wastewater? Because we had the same thing with Mount Hope Bay, checking the drainage, and they were going to scope the pipes and all that stuff?
Well, we never did apply for a grant. We were going to work with the sewer department, and there was a camera and a truck and work something out, but we never physically applied for a grant for them to move in this. This is the first one that's become available. We've asked for funding before, but the funding so far that in response to this 2010 has all come from the taxpayers out of our budget. $8,000, $7,000 one year, and I believe 18 the next, and like this would be the third round, so that's where we're at.
Did we already put the cost for the the camera into this year's fiscal budget?
No, no.
That was discussed.
Yeah, before wastewater broke apart from us, we were working together where it's really a machine or a vehicle that wastewater districts have and sewer districts have. So wastewater, I have to get it done anyhow. I was going to hire it out, like $1,500 a day. And I said to John, well, why don't you guys need one? You're gonna buy one. They can get one for $10,000. And then I'd rent it from you, and instead of giving the money to an outside contractor. Well, now that they're broken off, that I don't want to do that deal anymore, where they're going to end up getting the camera and the truck and everything. So that now is included in this grant application, where before it was, you know, this wastewater voted actually to do it that way, and so, but it was a win-win again, but it's, now that they're broken away again, it's not a good deal for the Department of Public Works anyhow.
What do you believe is the likelihood of us getting this grant?
I think that since 2010, when we've been notified in October, the town's really made a concerted effort. We've met with the deputy directors. We've, again, for 3 years in a row, put money into the program to do illicit discharge detections. We've put public education pamphlets out. And the sewer district, forming the Dewey Sewer District, I think, is a big feather in the town's cap in moving forward to solve a problem when most of the towns are stumbling all over the place with the funding issue. So I think when you put this all together, I'm going to really argue hard that not only we should get the grant, but it should be a 75-25 because of all the effort that we put forth. You know, other towns don't do this. They wait 20 years before they move. And every single year, we've done something to comply or make DEM satisfied and happy, and so I would argue we'd have a good chance at this.
And if the grant is awarded and through our budgetary process, the funds aren't, the match funds aren't available, we don't get the grant.
We don't get the grant, nope.
And we would then be faced with trying to fund that vehicle
Just the basic
all out
upkeep.
with.
That's the basic problem, yep.
When in all likelihood would that deadline be of either pony up or give it back? Would it fall before the next budget cycle, presumably?
Well, it's in DEM's hands now. That the deadline for submission was, what, the 10th? And October 10th, so we got it in, and I imagine it's a bond issue item for the state, so it's not going to be sitting there a long time. I think they kind of push them projects through and analyze them, tell them yes, no, or maybe so. And so I would think we'd hear from them relatively soon. It wouldn't be dragged out.
Again, I will only speak for myself. The request is for council support. I think this again, I will say that I support everything that we've done in the past, and I hope we'll continue to do to save our bay and protect our watershed. You know, I think it's pay me now or pay me later. I mean, eventually we will have to do this. You know, and the longer we wait, the higher the costs. So I personally am in favor of this at this point in time.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we ratify the DEM grant application for stormwater compliance as illustrated in item G4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Steve. Okay. Town Administrator, approval of direct energy contract.
Mr. President, I'll try to be concise
And brief.
and avoid superfluous redundancies.
So you're not going to repeat yourself?
I will not repeat myself. As most are aware, I will remind you that the town of Tiverton is a member of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. And by virtue of that membership, is part of a buying group that buys electricity on the commodity market and the open market. with a long-term contract that locks in prices that these experts in the commodity futures markets calculate works for them and works for the town as well. And for the last 3 years, the town has benefited from a very strong position in its contractual relationship with Direct Energy for electricity, to the extent that we were paying just about 6.7 cents or so per kilowatt hour for the last year of the contract. The contract is now up for renewal and adjustment to the market rates for electricity. What has happened in the intervening time, in these 3 years, while the town has been locked into this very strong rate position? There's been a significant change in energy policy in the United States, and we now generate a lot of our electricity from the combustion of natural gas and not coal. It's a position taken by the environmental community. It has had significant repercussions for the demand for natural gas in the Northeast Corridor and the East Coast in general, where the infrastructure is not large enough to support the demand for natural gas for home heating needs as well as electricity generation needs. And thus what you see Algonquin, the biggest pipeline provider in this part of the country, in this massive expansion project, which includes increasing its capacity here in Tiverton and Little Compton for its main transmission line over to Aquidneck Island. So it's all related. This big pipeline project that will run through the Bay Street neighborhood is part of Algonquin's attempt to expand capacity for natural gas. In the intervening time, the laws of supply and demand have operated with vicious effect, and the December posted tariff rate for electricity from National Grid is 13 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's more than double, just about a little bit more than double what the town has paid under its contract to date. Direct Energy has been able to lock in a rate for us as of this morning of 9.515 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a 3.5 cent break off the municipal standard offer and locks us into that high 9 cent range for the next 3 years, which, because of the capacity problems, is probably going to be a strong position to be in, given that the capacity expansion that Algonquin is planning won't really be shovel in the ground until 2017. So we enter into long-term contracts in the commodity market in order to defend against future uncertainties when those uncertainties appear to be highly likely. So, the bad news is, looking towards the budget season, the town will be spending about 40% more per kilowatt hour of energy. The good news is, we're still paying a heck of a lot less than we would if we were not in this purchasing group relationship through the League of Cities and Towns. Thus, it is my recommendation that we enter into this contract, and then later on in this meeting, I will go into some detail about how I hope to try to save money out of our electricity accounts to at least offset this market adjustment.
Anything from the council?
I was just going to ask.
I just speak as a liaison to this town council. Thank you. The school committee went through the same thing. We got a rate of 0.7 through 12/16 and just under 9 till 12/19. So what I was thinking is if you could talk to Dan Beasley in the League of Cities and Towns, and the school committees and League of Cities and Towns could come together, and would really be at a great savings. Okay? So
No, I
that's
certainly.
with Constellation.
Right, and Constellation's a vendor I'm familiar with.
I know.
You're benefiting from the fact that you're in that relationship now.
Of course.
So when you roll next year, you're going to be facing the same
But if
tariff
we
increases.
could all do it together, I think it would be even more powerful.
Right, and I certainly, it was earlier on the agenda, we didn't talk about it, but we did piggyback with the school department this year on heating fuel, and we saved 31 cents a gallon, so it works.
Thank you.
The only comment I have is that there's a typo on page 5 that lists James Gonzalo as the addressee.
I did ask them to change that.
Great.
I actually asked them to make it town administrator at 343 Highland.
And Matt, how long does the energy contract go for?
So for 3 years, so it would be effective November 1, which is when it rolls over.
So
2014 through 2017.
Okay.
And this is for all electricity that the municipality uses?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's buildings, streetlights, the whole shooting match.
The whole shoot and match, the vast majority of which is streetlights.
Okay. Anything else from the council? Okay, I will entertain a motion regarding ratification of the direct energy contract.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve the direct energy contract as explained by the town administrator and illustrated in item G5.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Roderick. Okay, no bids and requests for proposals. Streetlights, discussion regarding potential proposal of purchasing streetlights.
So, to continue on the same theme, Mr. President, we now have a problem. We have electricity is going to be more expensive, and it is my intention to try to alter the budget so that we address that problem going forward on a go-forward basis. So not just a one quick fix, but something that over the period of a long duration of time, we should be able to save money the way we operate streetlights. So once again, the League of Cities and Towns has pulled together a group. They call themselves PRISM, Partnership for Rhode Island Streetlights Management. This is sort of a, when you earn your stripes as a geek, I think when you focus on streetlights, you are definitely passing muster. But these folks have worked for years and years and years, fighting through the Public Utilities Commission, fighting sometimes against, sometimes alongside National Grid to make some changes to the way they run their streetlight program. I guess I'm putting it mildly when I say streetlights are not billed with very much precision to the town, to any town. I think it is fair to say, I don't think I'm slandering anybody when I say that the rates charged to the municipalities for all of the components of streetlight ownership and operation are done at a very high level of generality, an allocation of company-wide expenses and all of the different overhead loading that you could possibly put into a fixed asset, where you have customers that have not, to this date, been very price sensitive and just don't squawk very much. We're just glad the streetlights are on. Well, now we're all at this position where we have to find places in our budgets to cut, and streetlights have come under a great deal more scrutiny. So let me give you an example. What we're talking about here is the light fixture itself, the appliance, not the pole, not the electricity, not the wiring, the appliance, the lamp. National Grid charges the town of Tiverton $94 per year for every single streetlight just for maintenance. And if you had to unbundle that maintenance, sure, we burn through light bulbs and sure we have some that get broken, but there's a whole lot more corporate loading that's going into that tariff rate, and we've just never squawked about it. Well, the folks from PRISM have. They've done this type of conversion all over the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with great success. And what they are realizing in practice is that it really only costs $9 per streetlight for maintenance every year. So what I would like PRISM to pursue on behalf of the town, and what these letters that I've put on the public record indicate, is that I've authorized them to begin the process of representing the town of Tiverton in a potential process to potentially buy our streetlights and at least save that $85 a year per streetlight for however many streetlights we have, close to 1,100, 1,300. The second part of this is once you own your own streetlights, you can decide for yourselves what kind of light bulbs you will put into your streetlights and change them on your own schedule and your own budget. And thus, if you went to LED, system-wide, you would save even more money. The hope is, and in this meeting with Mr. Broadhead and the guys from PRISM, the town treasurer was present for part of it. We asked her to come up. What we'd be doing is budgeting the same amount that we normally budget for streetlights, but the hope would be we could do the purchase of the lights within the budget and save enough in 1 year to not alter the fundamental math of the budget. So you save that much money just by buying them and doing away with the maintenance cost. and then at some point in the future programmatically start to think about going to LED and saving an additional 15% off your electricity. To me, that is the most obvious solution to this ripple in our budget process of this large increase in the cost of electricity to the town. I said in my letter to you that this actually presents an opportunity for the town to take a leadership position, because other than the smaller communities in South County, we'll be one of the first towns to go for this. The important thing to note is that every single step of this process requires the town administrator to come back to you for further authorization and feedback. So this is not a carte blanche, hey, yeah, go fix the streetlights. I'm putting you on notice that I've asked them to take the single most important step, which is to represent us with National Grid and ask for an inventory of all of our streetlights and our metered billings, and to begin the mathematical process of getting to a bottom line. How many do we actually own, and how much will it cost us to buy them all? So that's what this is. It's notice, because there's nothing binding to the town. There is no expense being incurred for the work that they're going to do for us. The only other thing I'll note at this point is, in the future, if the town does join this buying group, members who join form the board of directors for the group and have direct control over the policies that are set to maintain the lights. So I will keep you apprised. It will take some time for Grid to respond. I don't know that they've ever responded to anything all that quickly. They're a big company. That's all I have on this. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just have one question. I don't know if you actually mentioned it. So we'd own the streetlights, but who would actually change the bulbs?
We.
Yeah, who's we?
We'd appoint,
DPW? Who is that?
No, you'd have a contractual relationship with a vendor.
Ah.
And yes, they would make their own regular routine runs, but there would be some onus on us to report lights that are out. And frankly, we do it all the time. My phone rings. We're constantly interacting with Grid with lights that are out.
So who would be the vendor we would be contracting? Is that private, or that would be the power company?
At the moment, well, it'd be a private company, for sure. I mean, I think what you would have to do is go out to bid.
Okay.
Let's be honest. There would be 2 or 3 strong contenders for that. One of them would be the firm that's doing almost every community in Massachusetts, because it requires a certain amount of equipment and knowledge to be up with the wires like that.
Licensing and such, yeah.
Anything else from council?
Just a quick question. Matt, does all of this hinge on the passing of this Municipal Streetlights Investment Act?
Well, the good news is it already passed.
Oh,
So this
there
is
you go.
actually the implementation phase of the act.
Okay.
There is one more bone of contention, not to get even more geeky than I need to, but the metering, the technology exists to meter every single light individually with a very small chip. And there's some resistance on Grid's part to doing that, but hopefully in the future, we'll only be billed for what we actually use at each light.
It's a novel idea.
Crazy.
Yeah. I'll use that word.
Yeah. Okay, council announcements, comments, and questions.
We get one.
I do. Got one more.
Oh, I'm sorry, resignation of John P. Lincourt.
Yeah, then I've got 2 quick announcements. Just announcing this, that Mr. Lincourt has resigned his position with the town of Tiverton as its wastewater superintendent, and the town has accepted, at least from our perspective, with regret. Mr. Lincourt has served the town very well through thick and thin, through some very difficult issues, and he is going to be pursuing an opportunity in a nearby community, which would, represents professional development for him. So I wish him the very best, and I certainly wish the district the best in finding a suitable replacement for him. He will be missed.
On behalf of the council, I would like to ask the town clerk to send a thank you to Mr. Lincourt for his years of service, and on behalf of the council, thank him. We appreciate all he's done. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. President, I have 2 quick things that are not on the agenda. They are announcements. There will be a public flu clinic this coming Thursday, the 16th, of October at the Tiverton Senior Center from 9:30 to 11 a.m. If you're not familiar with the Senior Center, it is at 207 Connecticut Street. And lastly, on Monday, November 10th, 2014, from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Barrington Public Library on County Road in Barrington. There'll be a free workshop for all private well owners regarding the facts about well water safety, the importance of testing and maintenance, and certainly if you have a private well and you're not familiar with those details, you should attend a session like that and learn a thing or two.
Is that on our website?
I will put all of this on the website.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Council announcements, comments, and questions.
Mr. President, I had two brief announcements. Earlier this month, Mr. Bellucci accepted a check of $28,966 from Rhode Island Recovery Resources for the success of our recycling program. So our thanks to the residents, Mr. Bellucci, and Patriot Waste Disposal. Secondly, as part of the good news, I think, although resource recovery will now require, as I understand it from Mr. Bellucci, a report from every community that receives these funds as to how they've appropriated them. Mr. Pelletier and Mr. Gerlach appeared before the landfill committee last month at the monthly meeting, and made a proposal or suggested the purchase of some bins and barrels for our playgrounds. And I'm happy to report 2 weeks ago, the landfill committee voted to approve the purchase of the playground bins and barrels, providing Mr. Gerlach and Mr. Pelletier with some of the material that Mr. Bellucci had picked up. And we leave to Mr. Pelletier and Mr. Gerlach the decision as to what style and color we want the bins and barrels, and the number of bins and barrels and where they'll be placed.
A vitally important decision.
But I can assure you that that does not come close to eating up our $28,966. But per Resource Recoveries, we'll be able to look for other projects like this that will address the issues of keeping the town clean and encouraging recycling in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the council?
I'd just like to maybe make some suggestion for the colors. We can make the school colors maroon and gold.
Great.
I'll take it in consideration.
Mrs. Shattuck? No art show?
No, that already occurred.
Not a new one coming up? Oh, okay. All right, nothing else from the council. Okay. Town solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple items. K1 is Tiverton versus James and Melissa Pelletier. Couple of things that had been requested. K1A is the copy of the original charging document, which was really first raised by the judge at the sentencing hearing, which K1B is the transcript of that sentencing hearing. And this is what the judge apparently based her decision on, that it was only limited to 1 day and she couldn't bring further charges. Obviously, we don't think that's appropriate. This particular document was originally signed by Gareth Eames and sworn to before the then municipal court judge, the late Scott Nebergall. So that's there for your information. Any questions? I will have more discussion over continuing events in the executive session on this matter, but if there's any question about, these are public documents.
So the box that she referred to was where it says offense date?
Yeah, the little box next to offense date.
And what is that?
Which says divers date, D-E-V-E-R-S, or D-I-V-E-R-S, I'm not sure, dates.
Okay.
That's the box.
That's the box that she...
That's the box which she raised after 4 years of having the case in front of her and 9 days of trial in front of her. That's the box that she raised the issue on.
Is this the only one of these type documents that would have been filed?
Yes, and it's the municipal court
Oh, I
cover
see.
sheet.
Yep, okay.
That's all. There is a complaint, an underlying, all the issues and so forth. This is the cover sheet. Obviously, that's our legal argument as well, that this is.
Okay.
I just have one question on page 12, lines 7 through 11, where the argument was made by Mr. Kelly, that's the attorney for the Pelletiers. It mentions in here that, as the court has pointed out, and as we pointed out in memorandum, the charging document charged one violation on one day. Diverse dates was not checked, and it could have been amended. It appears to me that Pelletiers counsel pointed out in a memorandum. Did we receive that memorandum?
We received that memorandum just prior to the hearing. This was his second reply memo. There was a sentencing memo that we filed, he filed a reply, we filed a rebuttal, and then he filed his rebuttal, which is when he finally raised it at the last one, which we did not have an opportunity to respond to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, solicit letter regarding liquor license for 7779 Main Road, formerly Buddy's.
Yes, just providing you with a copy of correspondence that I had sent to this applicant. This application was renewed by the council. It's not in any state to be open. The council has twice extended it, and I was just, wanted to provide him with notice that it should not be coming back in expecting that it would be a renewal, since there is no longer an active license. He'd have to come in for a new license. Excuse me. Third item is just regarding the fire department investigation and the report by Attorney DeSisto. I will have that for you at the next meeting. Because it contains a great deal of material that is not public, that deals with personnel matters, we need to redact the report so that as much as possible of it can be made public, and I'm working on that, and we'll have that for the next meeting.
Will that be the 20th or the 27th?
I think that would be the 27th. I don't think this is...
So it's not the next meeting?
Right. The next regular meeting, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Town clerk.
Just a reminder that we have the Volunteer Appreciation Evening this Friday, October 17th, from 6 to 8 at the Tiverton Senior Center. It is for all Tiverton boards and commission volunteers, past and present. I did put a little article in the paper about it, and so we will follow the same procedure as last year. We will charge council contingency on that. And secondly, this is a notice of the polling precincts or polling districts for the general election. We will have all of our districts open. Anybody who is in question as to where they should go to vote should contact the clerk's office at 625-6703. This is going in the newspapers, both the Sconnet Time and the Fall River Herald, to make sure we're getting as many people as we can. It has already been advertised once in both newspapers, but we will put it in again probably the end of next week, so that it's fresh on people's minds. And I just want to make the comment that now the Board of Canvass, at kind of the assistance of the Board of Elections, we will be holding on primaries and general elections all our polling locations will be open. So other than the financial town meeting, wherever you are assigned, wherever you are living, in what district you are, and the polling locations you're assigned to, you will always vote there, except for the financial town referendum. And that, we do have question 8 on the ballot for. The Board of Canvass is hoping to get that more centralized into one location, and also to change the date from the third Tuesday in May to the third Saturday in May, to make it a convenient day for everyone. And it'll be the same as you're going in to vote now. We'll have plenty of poll workers there, but you'll be in one central location, and that will end some of this confusion as to voting in all different locations for each one. That's all I have.
Nancy?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joan.
Go ahead.
It's just a quick question. And I've looked for this before, and perhaps I'm just not looking in the right spot, but is there a map of the town that exists that overlays the precincts?
There is, and it used to hang right there, but there are several that are hanging in my office.
Or is it available on?
Put the other one up here. I believe it was even, it may even still be on the website, but if not, we'll make sure it gets on the website.
In a prominent location, only because I get asked the question all the time, and while the addresses of the polling places are great, it's not always clear on how those align with your street
I
address.
cannot advertise the map with it.
Oh, no, no, no,
Way
no.
beyond it. But I will make sure that it gets on the website, and perhaps posted in several locations around the town.
Sure, good.
Because we actually will be posting the warnings for the election next week, so I post at least an 8.5 by 14 copy of the map, so, it might help some people.
Good.
And we have calls coming in all day long, and we don't mind them. We'd rather handle where you're going to go to vote prior to the election day than for you to get to the wrong location and get frustrated there. So, we'll do what we can on that.
No, I was just looking for the map.
Oh.
back on
I
the
know,
wall.
we had to take it down for something. I think it was because somebody was using a projector there or something, and it didn't get back up. But I will see that it gets back up.
It's
There's
very
also-
helpful. It's big.
There's also a link on the Secretary of State's website, and there's an app I heard as well now. The Secretary of State is putting together that you can download, and it'll tell you where your voting precinct is. So, because the map, I live on a street that half the street is in one district and half the street is in another district, so sometimes you need a little more pinpoint accuracy than the map.
Well, hopefully, after this general election, people will realize that is where they are always going to go to vote, with the exception of the FTR. We can't open all 7 locations for the FTR.
Maybe we just mention that to the poll workers, to say, mention it to everyone
Well,
as
I
they
was
come
hoping
in.
some of our newspaper reporters would pick that up or contact our Board of Canvassers on that, because it's important that we get that
Yeah.
question 8 passed for that purpose.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Hey, Mr. Lambert.
I move we go into closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42465A2, Ray litigation, Town of Tiverton versus James and Melissa Pelletier.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor?
And stay in closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42465A2, Ray litigation, Bay Street remediation.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor?
And stay in closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 465A2, Ray litigation, McLaughlin versus Town of Tiverton.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor? Motion
And
carries.
stay in closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42465A2, Ray litigation, Secundit River Bridge